Deep in the ocean, an orca pod is on the hunt. But these aren't your average orcas. These guys are organized.
Marketing team, did you get those social media posts scheduled for the SEAL migration?
Aye, Captain. We even have an automated notification for all pod managers when they go live.
They use Monday.com to keep their teamwork sharp, their communication clear, and their goals in sight. Monday.com. For whatever you run, even orcas. Go to Monday.com to dive deeper.
Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer. So let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
You know, you started out, you come to New York City, to the Lower East Side, you Soho area.
Said, well, wait. My dad says, don't let the Big Apple make applesauce out of you. That's my father's advice about New York.
That is so funny.
I have no life skills. But
you
can't. That was what I was told. That was.
I was lucky because my mother was from Manhattan, so she was so happy that I was. That is so
well,
funny.
My dad worked in New York for many years in fashion. So I had been to New York. My mom took me to the Modern, and I had been around New York, but so Soho was really done by the time I got there. You couldn't afford it. So I moved to Williamsburg. I was one of the first, I was in the early wave. Yeah, I had a loft in Williamsburg. I lived right across the street from the diner that is from Two Broke Girls.
Wow.
And it was a great adventure, but it was a little too soon. It was the next Soho, but not yet. It was like, if you could wait 10 years, it'll be the next Soho.
But you worked, all right, you started out as a visual artist, and you showed your art at the Met and at the Dance Theater Workshop.
Yeah, I was in a show at the Metropolitan Museum of Art Library. I was making these little books, one-of-a-kind books, and I started to get into book shows, kind of fancy, because they were very unusual. They were very messy, and the book art world is super pristine. I mean, just like you and I. I mean, I was like lopping paint on and sewing with my hand and and writing stories with big paint, and they were different, and I wasn't like, oh, how is a book done, so. But then my performance, it's funny with performing because I really love performing. And like when I was at Brown, but I wasn't in the theater department. I will tell you, and this sounds so stupid, but I always thought plays were kind of stupid because I'm like, we're right here. Don't they know we're right here?
Right.
I was like, I get it if we're like in 1600 or Shakespeare, like there's no TV. But like we have TV, so if you want to do that, do it on TV.
Right.
But I love dance, and I was never a great dancer, but I was a good choreographer, and I did very experimental, choreograph work, and I love dancing, and so I did that, and I adored performing, and I didn't really know what a performance artist was in school, but I guess as soon as I came to New York, and then I was working at the Unsloppy Copy Shop, another in my life. And that's when we still had copy shops, not to, date myself, but, and everyone came in. It was on 8th Street. It was so much fun. Every band came in, and I would, I met everyone. I hooked up with people, and it was great. And who needs a dating app? So it was so much fun. And it was printmaking too, which I really loved. I loved printmaking. It's
so interesting that you're a visual artist. Like I can't draw my way out of a paper bag. I don't even know what that expression means, but there's so many comics who have other,
art stuff. Music,
art. Yes.
Like you have music and
And I feel like timing, like I am very auditory, but you're very visual. Like it's fascinating to me. So,
it was hard when I started comic. Well, so, basically the way I started performing was I was doing well with these books, but I thought, what's going to happen? I mean, the best thing that can happen is a rich person buys them.
Wait,
that's the best thing.
But was your mother so happy? Like my daughter, was she like Jewy like that? Beth is going to be at the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
No.
Rita did not talk like that.
There was nothing, and there was no sense of like.
There's no affect.
No, but besides that, there was no understanding of the art world and what would be good and what would be. The whole thing seemed, I think, scary to them. I never got like. Was never clear. I think I always felt they were worried for me more than like excited that I was in the Met. It all was like, you're in the Met, but it's like these crazy books. You know, it wasn't like understandable really.
Right.
So
did people buy them?
No, because I didn't do it for very long.
Right.
I started selling art very young. I mean, even like in college, I was selling stuff, even like the frame shop in New Haven. I mean, I was starting to sell work, and I was like the TA for printmaking. I was good at it, but it just, I couldn't, there was too much about art that was, this is so obvious. It was a lot, it's all materials. And I have such a hard time with physical reality, like keeping track of things and moving things. I was like, then I won the art prize senior year. So I was like, oh, that's what I am. I'm an artist. And but then my advisor told me you didn't really win it for the work. You won it for the way you wrote about the work. And then I'm like, oh, so am I a writer or an artist? You know. So I go to New York. I do these things. But even after doing them for a very short time, and they were successful pretty fast, I just got like, oh, the way you're successful in the art world is you make something and a rich person buys it. Like that's the game. And I just thought, I don't want to just be pimping out to rich people. Right. Again, with my like, why should they get to say?
Right.
And so then I thought, I have an idea. So I decided I was going to make these books. And then I moved into Manhattan because I couldn't take Williamsburg. And then which was a funny story because I was like, I have to live in Little Italy. I don't know why. I have to live in Little Italy. So walk the streets. And then one day I'm on Mulberry Street and I go into the social club, which people are familiar with from The Sopranos. The guys are sitting there. I don't know what it is. I'm a girl from New Haven. Nobody's ever told me anything. I see these guys sitting having espresso and I open the door. I walk in and I go, hey, you guys. They all put their hands in their pockets. You know, it's like, what the fuck? So they're like, doesn't she know about the mafia?
Yeah. That's hilarious.
I'm like, hey, you guys, does anyone know of any apartments around?
No way.
They're like, no. But I had a friend who was a friend from Brown, actually. Who lived on the block, and eventually he helped me get an apartment above Lucy's Candy Store, which was a store that had 3 candy bars in the counter. It was like not a candy store. And if this is like too long a story, I won't tell you. But anyway.
No, go ahead.
Well, my parents came to visit me there, and Lucy said to my parents, "Don't worry, we're watching out for her. She'll be fine." And so in that building, this is crazy. This building was so amazing. So it's a 5-floor walk up, you know, it's as big as my computer, you know, it's so small. There's not one right angle in the whole thing. There's no water pressure, but I loved it so much. I mean, it was just life to me, this place. I was so excited to be there. It was Mulberry Street between Spring and Prince. It was everything to me. And, on my Instagram, actually, I posted a picture from the roof recently that my friend Donna Ann McAdams, the amazing photographer, took, and it got like more likes than anything.
Wow.
It's like, you just like me when I'm young. But anyway, it's a great picture. Check it out on my Instagram. So anyway, so I'm there and I start making these little books big. Now I'm going to make them big and I'm going to perform in front of them because then everybody can see them. And I miss performing, but I don't want to be a dancer and I don't really want to act, but I love performing. So I'm going to make these books giant. Instead of writing the stories, I'm going to paint them and I'm going to tell the stories in front of them. Great idea.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So I get
That's a good mode of expression.
Yeah, I thought so. So I get in. So I start to perform at the various performance art spaces. So I get in and I get, you know, my very first review is like problematic because it was in the Soho News and it was like, I can't remember the headline. I have to find it somehow, but it was something like, fuck the old timers. There's this great there's this new girl and she's amazing. Right. So, and then it was like medium reviews of 3 powerful performance artists. And then, but there's this new chick. So it was like, oh, who's this new chick? And it was like, but it was, I don't know. So anyway, but here's the funny story. So I'm making these things, right? This was a little before that. And I get I get a sheetrock move. You know, when you see people going in the city moving sheetrock around on, it's like this dolly. Right. And I put the books on them and I wheel it to Washington Square Park, where in order to get a good spot, you got to be a fire eater. I mean, you can't be like a quirky, brown educated girl telling offbeat stories about some mythical she, you know. And so I took the best spot, and some guy comes up to me and goes, honey, this is my spot. And I was like, I'm here. And it was just so like, you're not here. You are not here. Anyway, I had to like vacate that spot. Yeah, there's turf wars in Washington Square Park. Anyway, I do this. And then I would keep the sheetrock thing and the books underneath the stairwell. And the super of the building was Louise Bourgeois. Do you know that artist, the famous artist, Louise Bourgeois? She's a very famous female, one of the most, you know, I'll check her on Wikipedia later. And she's very famous. And her son was my super. So he was very pro artists, and he said, you can't keep your books there. You can't keep your books there. But he let me keep my books there because he loved artists. And one night I'm in my apartment and I'm writing a story about a girl who saves her boyfriend from a fire. And while I'm writing this story, bam, 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 bam. It's the fire department. There's a fire in the building.
No.
Yeah. Fire. It's like just our phones. I mean, it's like, it's so thin. The membrane is so thin.
What is that?
I don't know. So wait, so the fire gets put out. Where has the fire started?
At your books.
In my books under the stairwell. So then I'm petrified of myself. I'm like, I'm too powerful. And I think, I mean, I wish I had, somebody asked me recently, like, do you have a mentor the way you mentored? Did you have a mentor? And I'm like, I didn't. I mean, I wish I had like an older woman or man, or hey, anybody, I mean, not gender specific, to say like at this time, like, this is what it means to be an artist. You have these things, you're sensitive, you know, this is part of the gig, and don't worry about it, and just learn. You need to study, like you need to learn meditation, and you should stop getting stoned, and you should do this and that, you know, you need to understand your power. And not to say your power, but you have to understand the power. I mean, look, there's some people who understand how to make money. That's their power. Right. But, you know, what is it that, you know, so anyway.
Well, the thing that, you know, everyone knows you for is UnCabaret. And this is, you went to LA with Greg, your ex-husband, Jew. And you go, and this is why I was so upset you would never use me. It's because
you told so many jokes.
It's because I told jokes. You created a space for people.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. But I'm going to tell you why it was so emotional for me. Is because it's a story. It wasn't only storytelling. It was rants. It was non-misogynistic. It was non-homophobic. You always said there's no xenophobia, no misogyny, no homophobia. And the fact that you created UnCabaret because, as you said, you got to LA, you go to these clubs, and literally every comic was using their act as a sort of audition or stepping stone to do something else. Right? To get a sitcom. Because, you know, look, Roseanne and every comic, I did not ever get a development deal or a holding deal. I'm like the only comic of that era that didn't. But it was like they were all tailoring their act so that when an agent or a writer or a producer or network executive was in the audience, that they would say, oh, that's an idea for a sitcom, you know?
Yeah.
And I always felt, and then there was UnCabaret, and the UnCabaret, you know, there were comics that, and you know, we're talking our good friend Judy told God,
oh my God,
we're going to talk about, and Taylor Negron, and Julia Sweeney, and Michael Patrick King, and David Cross, and Janine Garofalo. Like there were comics in the clubs that were like, they use their notes, you know, like, so like, and I never even though I never really I told stories a lot and I talked about my mother, but I never really felt like I fit in the clubs in the way, and I always wanted to be a part of, and it felt kind of like, oh, they're the cool ones. And it was like, I don't fit in anywhere. I could go in the clubs and kill. I knew how to kill and do my own thing. I don't think anyone else was like me, but I wasn't the type that did those 10-minute, 8-minute, 6-minute pieces. I would get on and just talk and talk. And I was like, I used to tell Judy, tell Beth, I tell stories like I tell a story about my mother.
I'm so sorry. You're right. I was wrong. I'm not infallible.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But it really did. You created this UnCabaret. You decided, I'm going to create a performance space that's safe.
And people hated that. Why should it be safe?
Right. Because you saw a bunch of, you did a show at a place, and there were a bunch of lesies in the audience, and you were like, oh my God, you guys are so receptive. And they said, yeah, because. I
said, when was the last time you laughed? They were like, well, we don't laugh. We're women who are
we don't go to
lesbians
because we're the fodder that they make fun of, and it was like a ping for you, and you created this.
I literally in the moment said to them, it was a download. I didn't think of it. I don't know where it came from. I literally in the moment said to them, I'll make you a show. It'll be unhomophobic, unxenophobic, unmisogynist. It'll be the UnCabaret. Where that came from, I don't know. What it was, I didn't know. Right. I didn't know. Except that I had this idea, that we talked about earlier, there's got to be a better way. And then, so that's the thing about being ready for an opportunity kind of thing. Like I did have this idea, there has to be a different way. Then there we were, and I make a show, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it would last the rest of my life, and
right.
It's cross that I would carry around.
That it's not a cross that you carry. It's it's amazing. So,
but it's also like, it's in some way, it is amazing. It's 100. I'm so grateful for it. It's been a life. I've learned so much. I've tried to quit it many times.
Yes, I have read that many times. Now, do you remember the first UnCabaret show and who was on it? Go.
Okay, that's such a great question, but I have a very iffy. I do remember doing it.
Where was it?
It was at the Women's Building. Building. It wasn't just that they happened to be at a show. There was this building called the Women's Building in downtown LA that was a women's artist space. It was where Judy Chicago.
Oh yeah, I love her. Yeah.
Party. So it was that space, and so I did it for them there, and maybe Judy Toll was in the first show. Maybe Carrie Snow. And beyond that, there's no posters. I don't remember. We did a couple of shows there. It was still very searching what it was going to be. And then they lost their funding. And then I thought, well, there's something here. And so we took it to Highways, which had been started by Tim Miller, who started PS 122 in New York.
Right. Where you had done stuff. You'd done stuff at PS 122.
Oh, a ton of stuff already.
Danceteria. Remember Danceteria?
Yeah.
The kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah, all that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And then so Tim started that, and I did it there. And that was just me, Taylor, and Judy. So I like to think the Women's Building was almost the insemination. Then the Highways was the gestation, and Luna Park was where it was born. People say, where did it start? And I'm like, it was a long 2-year process.
Yeah, it was Luna. Yeah.
We would call it beta testing now.
Right.
But there was this long period of growth.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Okay, 2 questions. When did you know, oh my God, I have something here? That's question number 1. And number 2, when did you realize, okay, these are the rules?
Highways was great fun, and it was Taylor and I and Judy and
Taylor Negron, Judy Toll.
They really, the three of us, I consider that really where the DNA formed. And it really did feel like something, because all the different threads of what UnCabaret is. Judy's ultra person. I mean,
oh my
people
God,
that don't know her. I mean, she was just so open and sharing.
We need to now dedicate a few minutes. Judy Toll was one of my best friends, one of your best friends. She passed away from melanoma in 2002. Was the biggest hypochondriac in the world. Was the most honest performer. I think she was the most naked in a way performer. No holds barred. When she got, and just FYI, when she found out she had cancer, and it was stage 4, she would like call up and go, Judy Toll to stage 4, please. Judy Toll to stage like it was when she lost her hair and she had this wig and it would move in the front, and she'd come up and she'd go, she'd move it and go, top of the morning to you, top of the morning. You know, there was nothing that was sacred. And she embodied UnCabaret because she would just get up there, emote, rant, and tell a story.
She would call me the next day and she would run through it and say who was really doing it. Dana, she would get mad at Dana Gould. He didn't really do it.
Right.
He didn't really do it. I hear it. He'd done that piece before. That wasn't right. I mean, she would really she was really strict, like stricter than anyone about the rules. The rules really happened like this. Once we were at Luna Park, the rules were still sort of like, just do stuff you can't do at the clubs. That's how it started. And then I was calling people like, you got to come see this. And they were like, I hate stand-up. And I'd be like, it's not like stand-up, like that. So we're getting people in, and then people are starting to like it, and they're bringing their friends. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, wait a minute, we can't do the same stuff again. I mean, now people are coming back.
Right.
Oh, and so I can't do the same stuff I'm on hosting, and but really they saw you date. Okay, so everybody knew stuff. But once people started doing new things, then it's hard to do new material, as you know. So if you're going to do a whole set of new material, there's things you haven't figured out totally. And so there was just a mic there one night, and I just asked somebody a question because the mic was there, and it was like obvious, like there was more funny in that spot. I don't remember who the first one. I keep thinking it was Julia, and she was telling a story about her house burning down when she was a kid, and she passed by it. And I said, wait a minute, your house burned down when you were 12. What was that? And then that was her whole set. And so and I also very clearly in my mind, besides being the female thing and the gay thing, all those things, and the fear of difference, I also had this feeling that my friends were funnier on the phone than they were in clubs. I mean,
right. I just so forced. It's very forced, you know.
And I just kept thinking, there's got to be a way to make it like the phone. Like now, nobody talks on the phone, but that feeling of intimacy. And so all of a sudden, I asked this question on the back mic, and I was like, oh, "This is the phone. This is just what it is."
Right.
So that was like, that's when the rules happened.
That's the greatest part. That is because I remember in the 80s, like in the early 80s when we were all in New York and I was at the Improv and I'd go on really late. And I remember Michael Patrick King would go on the back mic and start like, all right, dude. And then sometimes he'd run outside to the door. There was a door that was always shut that was by the stage, and he would bang on the door. And like, because it was so late at night, we would just fucking play. But that was so great because the first time you got on the mic, I read that someone was doing a bit and it needed something else. And you asked the question. Yeah. Just said, oh, but whatever the question was.
Whatever it was. But you'll know this. I mean, one of the things that keeps an audience from laughing is an unanswered question. If an audience is sitting there and they have a question, they won't laugh because they're just need an answer. Like if you leave out a piece of information in the setup or you've revealed half of something, there's like, I would laugh, but I need an answer first. So
right. And it's it's the same as the elephant in the room, you know, like it's like you got to address what people are thinking. You can't not.
But I always, another pet peeve, if we're going to, my 2 comedy pet peeves, I know what you're thinking. I never want to hear a comedian say, I know what you're thinking.
I know what you're thinking.
I know what you're thinking. I'm a Jew. I know what you're thinking. I'm the love child of somebody and somebody opposite. That's just my pet peeve. Just my pet peeve.
Funny. I never said that. That is just the funniest. I know what you guys are thinking. Hey, when is he gonna get a haircut?
Yeah. I've never once been thinking what a comedian knows I'm thinking. I mean, I don't know who they're talking to. And so I check out. And so,
oh my God, that's so funny. I love that.
So anyway, I think that is what happened. And then it wasn't like one night. It slowly was like, oh, wow, people are really coming. People are starting to come. And then the LA Times assigned a writer to it. And we heard there was this article. Greg did a really smart thing, and he wrote a press release that was like, it's a movement. You know, there are other shows. We're doing this at UnCab, but now there's some other alternative shows. And anyway, this guy, his name is Chuck Crisafulli, started to come. And then all of a sudden, one Friday, oh my God, this unites us, this story. We're living on Finley, both you and I.
Yes, we lived together in LA. You lived above us.
Yes.
I rented, just so everyone know, I rented an apartment with 2 Leslies, and upstairs was Beth and Greg, and all I did was complain about the noise, which I still do with my neighbors in New York. Like, that's all.
I was like, maybe that was so hard. I was like, I can't walk any softer. I can't walk any softer. I'm sleeping.
What was that? Wait, it was Finley Avenue. I forgot the address.
It was Finley and I can't remember the number, but it was Finley near Hillhurst.
Yeah, it was. I love that apartment.
Oh, it was fun. Anyway, it was that apartment, and I walked out. I used to walk up in the hills in the morning, and I walked out, and there's the Friday LA Times. Like, I can't believe I actually had a subscription, but I opened the paper, and above the fold in the calendar section on a Friday, the whole above the fold is this giant headline: a new breed of comedians. And then there's pictures of everyone, and there's a big picture of me, and there's this article that is just like, this is the new thing. And then, and then we go from trying to keep it going to like literally fistfights of people having to get into the shows.
Right.
Literally. There was one night also, some executive had flown in from New York, and they weren't going to let her in. I was like, you have to let her in. The fire mark. It was like, well, there's a fire mark. It was Jean-Pierre, and he was a big piece of it. He ran a club. The club owners. We started with Bert. These guys and women who owned the clubs. I mean, Mitzi
one woman.
This is an important part of it. And he was a little bit of he was very Parisian and he ran a tight ship in a weird way, but it was a little bit good because it was like he was the parent, and then we were in the basement, and I think there was something about having the show in the basement that was like, it was very the semiotics of it, where you would like leave the club and go downstairs, you're entering the subconscious, and you faced a mirror and you let go of your ego. And anyway, performers would sit on the stairs going up, and the room started to get more and more crowded, and people were coming, and everyone was there. It turned into just such a scene. There were
and people, also afterwards, because there was a restaurant upstairs, you guys would all hang out. Like it was a scene. I mean, it was really like a scene, and it was a little weird for me, I have to say, in retrospect. Part of what was hard was being the man. I mean, I was never the funniest. I don't mind saying that. I mean, maybe the somethingest, but I was on every night, every show. So it was your show. But did you feel like, oh my God, I'm really cool and hip, and did you ever like think, I've created this? I did something with my Brown degree. No. Did you ever think...
Modes of expression, Judy.
Yes.
Modes of expression.
Did you think, oh my God, I've made it.
I didn't at the time, and what I really thought was, why can't I sell? You know, and then we tried to sell it. This is a piece of history I don't really talk about. It was optioned, you know, and of course, you just want to be on TV. I mean, it's LA. What good is it to have a hit show?
And you know, okay, go ahead.
And so we were optioned, and Comedy Central wanted to buy it, and they wanted Janine to host it, and I said no. And nobody told me, like, hey, this is show business. Sell it and let her host it, and you'll cash in, and you're going to make house money. And then what you're going to do is come up with another idea. I was like, no, it's my show. I have to host it. So instead, Comedy Central did this other show called Comedy Product, and I was devastated. And they were like, of course you'll be in it.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Knowing you,
yeah,
Comedy Central would have done that. You would have been drinking even more. They would have ruined your idea.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I know.
They would have. They really would have.
Be here today. Yeah. Right.
So everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, eventually and I've let go of it. You know, there was, I about 10 years ago, I thought that was the biggest mistake I ever made.
I know, I do that too. It's because you get to a certain age where you're like, God, I wish I had so much money, because you see all your friends have money, and you're like, I could have done this and I would have had
I'm like, there's still things to do, and this is my destiny, and I just, it is what it is. I mean, I'm in acceptance now. And eventually we did do it for Comedy Central, but this is kind of crazy too. This is so show business. We did one, it was supposed to be a backdoor pilot. It did come out really, I'm proud of it. We had Kathy Griffin was in it before, you know, she was Kathy, and Julia and Taylor and Andy Dick and Scott Thompson, Dana. And it was supposed to be about like a backdoor pilot, and we were getting all this press, and then we couldn't get press. We were told not to get so much press because they needed all the press for South Park, because obviously they'd already, you know, South Park was the thing. So we were right up against, and so it was like, well, yeah, sure, UnCab, but what about South Park? That's, you know, our thing.
Right.
So that didn't happen, but, you know, and then I did feel a lot that I was never getting my shot because I had this thing and nobody could really see the other stuff I could do. Right. And everybody else was getting super famous, and everybody in the show was getting famous and getting their deals and getting rich. And it was hard to feel like, oh, you know, you're so cool, you created this thing, when really I was struggling financially and I couldn't figure out what the rest of my thing was going to be. So eventually I did a one-person show, and then I did get a radio hosting job at Comedy World, and that was a blessing for a year, but that's a 2-hour show that we won't do right now. What happened to that network? But you know, it was interesting because it was ahead of its time, and it was internet. I mean,
it really did change. It did change, and your impact, honestly, it's present today. It's present in traditional comedy clubs today. Those people are now considered mainstream in a way.
Yeah.
And what you were fighting against is considered hack. It is literally considered hack. So you did an excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent thing. Now,
but that was my thing. It was in the past, and why should I do it again? You know, and when I went off, you know, I bought a house in Palm Springs, and I did my show 100% happy 88% of the time, and I was like, I'm really done with UnCab. It's really just time for mom now.
But it keeps coming back.
Do you want to hear a crazy story about how it came back?
Yeah.
So Palm Springs, I mean, it was a blip, whatever. It was interesting. That's got to end. Coming back to LA, I can't live, you know, was supposed to go back and forth, and then the crash, we can't have two places, and whatever. Come back to LA. And then I'm trying to reset up my life. Greg and I are in the middle of breaking up, and that's fun. If anybody hasn't ever been through a divorce.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great. I lost so much weight. That was the only, that's it.
It was like, and there's no house. I'm living with friends, the whole thing. It was but okay. My good joke from that time is I was avoiding my mom because it was so hard to talk to her. And so finally one day I pick up the phone, and I was staying with the brother of one of my friends from Brown, and they had a place, whatever. So I can't really talk, but I pick up the phone one day and she says, oh my God, I've been talking to you so long. How are things? I'm like, well, fine. She says, well, what's happening with the show? I'm like, well, I'm 100% happy at 80% of the time. I think we have to close it. Yeah, so nothing's really happening. It was good, but it's over. What's happening with the house? I don't know. Maybe foreclosure, maybe Airbnb. I don't know. Maybe we can sell it. Or we're underwater. It's not good. What's happening with your finances? I don't know. It's really not good. Maybe bankruptcy. It's not good. Well, what's happening with Greg? Yeah, things aren't that good. We might be getting divorced. And there's like total silence. And then I say, well, as long as we're talking, I may as well tell you, I quit drinking. And she says, now? With everything going on? She says, do you really think this is the best time for that? Mom. So
that is the fucking best. I love that. That's good. So then and then a friend of Mitch and mine said, I'm working at this place and they need shows and maybe you guys could do something. Mitch Kaplan.
Mitch Kaplan. We were working on 100% happy 88% of the time together at that point. And so we go down to this place. Okay. And then a friend of mine had given me a card because it's such a hard time. And she's kind of like a spiritual guide kind of person. And she gave me this card that was like, it said Hope one way. It was like a traffic sign, Hope one way, Hope Street and a one way sign. And I'm like, I don't even believe in hope, hope is about the future. And,
you said, quote, Hollywood taught you that hope will kill you.
Yeah. That was a Greg thing. And I picked it up from him. He was he was more Hollywood than me. He was a screenwriter. I was an artist, and he had a very the hope's going to kill you. And I bought it, and then, but also the yoga was very in the now. So that was also not about hope. That was about being present. So I really had a very confused, and plus being Jewish. I mean, hope. So anyway, she was a Christian and she gave me this card and I loved her. So wherever I went, and I moved 18 times in 2 years, I went a lot of places and I would have this little card with me, Hope one way. So Mitch and I go to this venue and we're looking around. It's a great room. I've never seen this room before. It's so hard to find a good small room. And miraculously, this guy says, yeah, we want you to do a show here. Do a show. They're going to pay us to do a show. They didn't even know what show. They need a show. You seem good. Sure. Literally, never has that ever happened.
Right.
So we're and then I'm like, okay, well, let's do playtime with Beth and Mitch. And Mitch looks at me and goes, well, let's do UnCabaret. And I go, I'm never doing UnCabaret again. That shit was dead to me. Dead. And he said, well, let's just do one for your birthday. Everybody loves UnCabaret. And I'm like, never doing it again. He said, and so I'm like, I'm fine. We'll do one UnCabaret. So we book one and say, we're going to do UnCabaret picnic. We walk outside. We realize that we're on the corner of First Street and Hope Street.
No.
And not only that, the venue is called First and Hope. Okay. Anyway,
the fuck is that?
The fuck? And then we one show, and 7 years later, blah, blah, blah. And then the 25th anniversary show, and then, blah, blah, blah.
This week's episode of It's Judy Show with Judy Gold is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you know me, which I think you do because you're listening to my podcast right now, you know that I am a big advocate for therapy. I think it benefits everyone. I think there's so many people who need it, who don't partake. It is so important for your emotional health and well-being. Therapy is fantastic. It is in every stretch of the imagination. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, please do it. But please give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. It suits your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I have switched therapists in my life. I've had many, many therapists, and sometimes it's not a great fit for you, but don't give up. Therapy is beneficial. You can learn about yourself. You can process and just be emotionally healthy. I'm telling you. do it. BetterHelp is great because, when I used to schlep to my therapist's office, it was so annoying. You have to do it, and you sit there and you wait. And then I'm telling you, doing it online is fantastic. And BetterHelp is amazing. I know a lot of people who've used it. So if you're thinking about therapy, go to betterhelp.com. Let the gratitude flow. This is gratitude month, people. So you need to let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Judy Gold, JUDYGOLD, today, and you will get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Judy Gold. You're welcome.
And then finally, I will say, to close UnCabaret, it was with that show that I finally did get. It was really, and I didn't want to do that show either. Another friend, convinced me to do that. And it was only then that I had to say to myself, if this is what you did, it's not that bad.
Right.
Like, it never did seem like enough or big thing or good thing or compared to what everyone else did. And I had to say, when I did that show, and the love, it wasn't just the love, it was the quality of the show. It was telling the story of the show. I wrote a cover story for the LA Weekly. We did and it was really me thinking about the show and the hospital and how that played in. And I put it all together, and I looked at 1,800 people, and new people came. It wasn't all just like, people who had always come. And in that moment, it was like, I always say, it was like a wedding size event. It was a little like a funeral, but it was also a little like a funeral because we didn't know where we were going. Our venue had closed, and is it ever going to exist again? It was like a wedding, a funeral. I don't know what it was, but I did get in that moment, like, if this is what you did, it's not that bad.
My favorite, I did go to the show a few times. My favorite, of course, was when Judy Toll sued Scientology and her $30,000 check. She blew it up. I remember I was staying with her. She blew it up and brought it on. She was fucking fearless and brought this fucking check and told the story, all the secrets of Scientology.
That was amazing. If people want to hear that, that's actually, you can hear that, I think, on Apple Music. There's a Judy Toll somethingology, we called it, because we couldn't call it Scientology. People can go listen to that.
Yeah, you can listen to Judy. So that's one. Other amazing things that happened on the stage. Julia Sweeney went on stage and said, so I have a little cancer.
Hold for laughs. That's what she would say. I have a little cancer. Hold for laughs.
And that turned into her amazing show, and God Said Ha.
Yeah.
Any other
things that came out of it?
Yeah, that were like, oh my God. You should get a commission on these. Go ahead. I know.
I know. People were like, you should become a manager. I'm like,
no, don't become a manager.
Well, Bob and David, were working on Mr. Show. I don't want to say
Bob Odenkirk and David Cross.
I don't want to say that really came out of UnCabaret because it didn't come out of it, but they were working on it at the same time. David gave me a really great piece of advice when we were doing the UnCabaret TV show. He said, just know that it's because they had these amazing Bob and David live shows while they were developing Mr. Show. They were great events. And he said, just don't expect the TV thing to be the same. Like, it's going to be different. That was great advice. And so that was happening kind of concurrently. It didn't have an ad on Cabaret, but there was like crossover. They were working some stuff out. And, the Sklar brothers, they did a show that Greg helped them produce. And that came out of UnCab.
All these relationships, that I could have been in.
You're in now. A lot of those people are gone.
I know.
I'm on Cabaret Zoom now.
First of all, UnCabaret Zoom is like the only good. It is so interesting because I have done stand-up on Zoom. It's literally the only good entertainment on Zoom. It's so weird how it translates. It translates.
Well,
because that thing, you know what it is? It's that phone thing. It goes right back to the phone. There's intimacy.
Yeah.
Like it's like the FaceTime. It's like the new phone of
Yeah.
really
Plus, I mean, UnCabaret has always been a community. I just changed it on Instagram from comedy show to community because in a way that is what partly why people plug back in. I mean, we've new people. It's so great with the Zoom things. I'm watching in Germany, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
But I also have people who are like, I used to come to Luna Park on Robertson. You know, it's so great to see you again.
Right.
Like that.
I can't, I'm doing it again, and not this Sunday, but this Sunday. And I love that you picked Sundays, because there's something ominous about Sundays, and there's something, you hate this word, hopeful about Sundays.
Yeah, no, I like it now. I've
all right, but
hopeful, yeah.
it is an interesting night that most people are like, don't know what to do with it. And it's carrying so much weight Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, it happens serendipitously, but I'm so happy that it did. And it was part of, I mean, I always sign my email in my newsletter. I always sign it Sunday, you know, your Sunday girl.
No.
And, because I do feel there's a word for it that is a smarty pants word, which is liminal. And a liminal space is like a hallway or, you know, an in-between space.
Right, transitional,
yeah. And Sunday, and it goes back to what I was saying about, you know, I never went to first grade. I never got the rules. I went from transition to second grade. Right. This thing about being in a shift and transition and like, it's that kind of space. And even for people, I mean, for artists, it's a space of inventing new work and that in-between place of coming up with new stuff. And that is a really big part of what it is. So every now and then we've done night shows on other nights, but you know, it's our home.
I love it. And I'm so happy. It's like, I mean, I'm 57 and I finally made it. So Beth, I ask my guests 2 questions always. We are very pro mental health. I suffer anxiety. I've had clinical depression, as we talked about the ADD, and you know, no executive function whatsoever. I know you said you meditate, you do yoga. Have you ever taken antidepressants? Have you ever?
I never have, even though it's been suggested to me many times. And in fact, when I was in high school, I had another different onyx ring, and people used to go, "Oh, it's your mood ring."
I love mood rings. I used to check it to see what kind of mood I was in. I love it.
So I've never taken antidepressants. I've been resistant to it. I
wish I would, but
I think awesome. Has it helped you?
It has. It's just the weight gain, and I take so many pills every day. I'm like a fucking, you know, drugstore. But you know,
I mean,
if you can figure out, people need therapy. People need
therapy, yoga, meditation. I mean, meditation has really helped. And I've done so many different kinds, but 6 years ago, I started a meditation practice that's called Vedic, which is essentially the Sanskrit yogic version of TM. You get your mantra, and it's so simple. I mean, other practices would make me anxious, so I hate to even just say meditation because that can mean so many different things. Specifically, this one practice has helped me a lot.
Did you have to pay $8,000 for your mantra?
No. But I did have to pay, but not $8,000. You can find a Vedic teacher that they have a sliding scale, and I paid in payments, and it was. I really did it as most of my life. You know, oh well, one of my friends became a teacher, and we have to support him, and I've just done never blah blah blah, and then it turns out to be this thing that, like, you know,
right. The other thing, you know, the podcast is called Kill Me Now because, as you know, everything gets on my fucking nerves. So I want to know what pisses you off more than, like, besides, I know what you're thinking.
I was going to say, I gave you 2 examples. For me, it's a lot.
Does anything drive you fucking, like, where you were like, I want to fucking kill, you know, like, I can't.
You know, it's funny. I do have a hard time with anger.
I don't know why. Your parents seem to really embrace it.
So, I mean, there was that moment in the, you know, all these things about the comedy world. This is a little thing. I mean, maybe if a little thing is okay.
Yeah.
I'm a very patient driver because I'm a bad driver. So I'm always like, well, that's something I would do.
Right.
But the thing of where people go through red lights, because they've been waiting, and so they think it's fine.
Oh yeah,
Well,
that
I've been
happens in
waiting.
LA all the time.
I've been waiting. I'm not. I mean, it's my turn, and it's like it's not your turn. The light's red. The light's red, and no matter what you think, there's a red light saying it's not your turn.
Like I put in my time, so fuck it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my time, my turn. So that makes me like super, super, super mad. I do get really still mad at, the boys club just does still make me mad.
Oh, it makes me so upset. I
can't even look at it. Like, I don't even know that it makes me mad because I can barely stand to look.
That has gotten worse in me. And having two straight white male sons and seeing how their life, how they navigate through life and how much easier it is. It makes it even, they're good. I mean, I have good. They're good people. They love, they're good.
Yeah.
But I'm at the point where like a guy I'm in a store here in Provincetown and a straight guy walks in with his fucking loafers on and his fucking khaki shorts and his hairy legs.
Khakis make me mad. That's enough. Just the khakis.
And they walk on the outside of their foot. They do that little. I want to take their head and fucking. I don't know what it is.
Well, for me, it's like even my dad said to me like last year at some point, he said, honey, maybe your life would have been easier if you were a guy. I think you would have had a lot more opportunities. My dad said to me just like that, just like.
Oh, really? Did you just figure that out?
But I mean, it was sort of sweet because in some ways, I don't ever think that. I mean, in some ways, I just think, well, I mean, I'm just weird and I'm just different, and that's why. And and then I see weird guys getting like, I'm like, wait a minute, it's not that you're weird; it's that you're a weird girl,
right?
And that's that's the problem. Is that So but then it's like, where does the anger get me? And then I get upset about not being angry, and so I try to just stay in my own lane most of the time. It's your color of the rainbow, and what can you do? And if you hadn't been mad, then you wouldn't have started UnCab, and that's your assignment.
Guys don't do that. Guys don't do that. Mm-mm. They just move on. Move it on. Beth, I love you. I love you
so much. I love you. I feel like I just will love you forever.
Oh, same. Let's hope I live. And I'm so excited to do UnCabaret. The book comes out the 28th.
Oh, so you have it, right? So you'll promote it. I already ordered. You know what? I have to tell you something. I never pre-ordered a book before, and I pre-ordered your book.
I love you.
I never have pre-ordered a book, and I just thought, why don't? You know what I said to myself? I saw the pre-order, and I was like, well, I don't do that. And then I was like, why? Why don't you do that? You should be doing that. This is something why don't you do that? Right. That's something you could do to change the world. You could put your weight behind the things you love. And that's what we have to do now. We have to, that's all we can do is support the things that we love, that are ours. And that's how we make the world we want.
Yeah, I agree. And, that is a very good mode of expression.
I love you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me. Tell people UnCabaret, where can they find you on Instagram?
Beth Lapides. There's a dash, Beth _Lapides. I don't know why I did it.
Lapidp.
Yes.
Lapides.
Lapides.
Lapides. Lapides. Yeah.
And then UnCabaret, UnCabaret. There are two different things. It's very confusing. Follow both. And on Twitter, Beth Lapides and UnCabaret, and the websites and Facebook, all that same stuff. And get on the email list and come to the UnCabaret Zooms.
Pop in.
Zoom in. It's so much fun. We've got, besides Judy, just the crew, and it's so much fun. We've been able to have new people. And anyway, I'm not going to list names, but it's been fun.
Thank you so much for listening to part 2 of Kill Me Now with Beth Lapides. if you like the show, and how can you not, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more people find this amazing podcast. 5 stars only, please. Thank you. I am thrilled, excited, I'm beside myself that I get to announce that my book, yes, I can say that, When They Come for the Comedians, We're All in Trouble, is out today, July 28th. You're probably not listening to this on July 28th, but today's the day, Tuesday, that my podcast does come out, so I'm just letting you know. It's ready for you to buy. If you haven't had the chance, grab it on Amazon, anywhere books are sold. I did an audiobook, and I'm really proud of it. Also, I couldn't be more thrilled to be performing live at the Crown and Anchor in Provincetown. It's outside by the pool every Monday and every Wednesday night until September, Labor Day. I'll be performing stand-up, my own show on Mondays, and I'll be performing with Varla Jean Merman, the Judy and Varla show, every Wednesday. Both shows are at 9 o'clock. Get your tickets at onlyatthecrown.com. As always, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram for any upcoming virtual dates at Judy Gold, Jewdy, like Jew Gold. And look for me this week. I'm doing a lot of press on the book, and I hope you enjoy it. And as we always say, so long!
And everything was wonderful. I'll see you soon. Thank you for the visit. So long.